Assalamu alaikum everybody. Another trip update from Europe. As you know by now, I shared with you how complicated it was to get a motorcycle in France. Had to go all the way to Germany and buy it over there. I'll show you in a little bit. My card was blocked by my bank. They said it was like some kind of security breach and they blocked it. So I don't have a bank card. I called them, they sent me a new card. It never got to my sister's house. They said that they tried to deliver it, never got there. They sent it back to the US, and I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do next. Part of the adventure, I guess. My motorcycle, I just got this Honda Trans Alp 700. Saddlebags and everything included. Part of the adventure is to get the licensing, proper licensing, and you can see the big lines going to the DMV. Gray weather. I miss California. I hope Spain has a better weather as it promises. Inshallah. I'm here at the motorcycle inspection station at the German DMV. They call it Zulassungsstelle, and the bike is being inspected right now by an inspector. See you in a bit. So the site of Poitiers is very important, and it has to do with the strategic planning and intelligence when it comes to preparing for battles. So the site I was supposed to visit this week, which I will do inshallah in the next few days, called Poitiers, is very important in the Islamic history in Europe. And this took me back to the importance of strategic planning and intelligence work during the times of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and also during the times of the person we'll talk about 100 years later, Abdurrahman al-Ghafiqi. And for that, I'd like to go back to the series of the seerah that we had started before I started this journey. And we stopped right before the Battle of Badr. And I noticed that a lot of Muslims think that the first battle in Islam, the first expedition of conquest, was that of Badr. But before that, it was many major events, as we will see in a little bit.
Now, in the first year of migration, we have to mention that that was the year that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ married Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhuma, and also they wanted to know how to call for the prayers. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, being a great leader, he's always taken the advice from the other Sahaba, and they said together, they said, what should we do? How should we call for the prayer? They said, well, the Jews have their horn, the Christians have a bell. What should we do? Should we light a fire each time? And they were still debating, and they had not come to a conclusion. Some narration said that they said, well, let's look for a bell or do something like that. The interesting story about how the adhan came about, came from the story of Abdullah bin Zayd bin Tha'labah, who was a Sahabi who went to sleep, and he saw in a dream that he was walking in the streets of Medina, and he saw a man carrying a bell, and he asked him, how much would you sell me this bell? He told him, what do you need it for? He says, I need the bell to use to call for the prayer. Then the man in the dream of Abdullah ibn Zayd told him, how about if I told you something better? He said, what is it? He says, each time you guys need to call for the prayer, just say Allahu Akbar 4 times, and then Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah, as-salat al-falah, and the adhan basically. So when he woke up in the morning, he ran to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him what he saw in the dream, and the Prophet ﷺ replied that this is good. And when he heard the adhan from him, he told him, teach it to Bilal because he has a better voice. So imagine, you come up with an idea and you present it to the Prophet ﷺ, and he tells you to teach it to somebody else. Of course, the Sahabi, these people, they basically didn't have an ego when it came to the matters of the deen. Bilal, started learning the adhan immediately and told him that the Prophet ﷺ told him to go up the masjid and call the adhan for people to come to prayer. Umar ibn Khattab, when he heard that, he came running to the Prophet ﷺ and told him, Ya Rasulullah, I saw the same words in the dream. So the two Sahaba have seen the same dream, and the Prophet ﷺ confirmed it, and he says, this is good. So before the Battle of Badr, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he decided that he has to face his enemies. He has to face them because they were planning and preparing to face him. For the people of Quraysh, the leadership of Quraysh, the matter of Islam was the biggest threat they have ever seen in their lives. So the Prophet ﷺ wanted to impose his authority over Arabia. He wanted to show them that this deen is here to stay and it will rule over Arabia forever. So the start of the struggle and jihad against Quraysh started with what? The Prophet ﷺ would not just sit there and wait for events to happen. This is typical character of a very smart and great leader. I always emphasized in my lectures that the Prophet ﷺ could have just put his hands together and say, Ya Allah, give me, Ya Allah, do this for me, Ya Allah, whatever. Just dua, like most lazy people would do these days. But the Prophet ﷺ was a great planner, and he sent spies all over the peninsula, basically undercover Muslims, who would bring the news and intelligence to him to see what the Arabs are doing so he can strategize his next step. And his first one was when he heard about a caravan of 300 camels. This is a huge caravan carrying business for Quraysh. That was the first year of Al-Hijrah in the month of Ramadan. So he appointed Hamza, his uncle, to lead 30 men, and all of them, these 30 men, were muhajirun. They were not from Medina, they were migrants from Mecca. He appointed his own family members to go fight the other side of the family in Quraysh, because he was clear to the Prophet ﷺ that he did not want to make this war, this struggle, these conquests about tribalism or family. It's about the deen. It's not like the tribes of Medina attacking the tribes of Mecca. No, he hired Meccans from Mecca to attack Meccans from Mecca to show that this is about changing the deen of Mecca. It's not about tribalism or tribal warfare. Hamza radiallahu anhu led his 30 men, and they reached an area, they call it Bani Dumrah. Bani Dumrah was led by Majdi ibn Amr. He was the leader of that area. When he saw that Hamza coming with the 30 men to attack the caravan of 300, so it's 300 against 30. Majdi ibn Amr, he stopped them. He sat in the middle, and he stood in the middle, and he told them, I will not allow you guys to fight on my territory. I don't want no problems with Mecca. I don't want no problems with Medina. Just leave here. And since Hamza had received orders from the Prophet ﷺ to attack the caravan and not fight, anybody else, he could have easily fought, Bani Dumrah and say, you're with them, so you're against us. No, he actually made a U-turn and went back to Medina with nothing, and the Prophet ﷺ did not come on that. So the next month, on Shawwal, Ubayd ibn al-Harith ibn Abd al-Muttalib, again, his cousin, appointing him to lead a squadron of 60 men. So these 60 men, all of them were muhajirun, and they were supposed to intercept a caravan led by Abu Sufyan himself. This is the first caravan of Abu Sufyan. I'm not talking about the caravan of Badr. It's another issue. So it's 200 men against 60, but Abu Sufyan, did some counterintelligence, because, how did the Prophet ﷺ know that the caravan is at that specific location? Well, Abu Sufyan was ready for an attack. They knew what was going on. They knew that Muhammad ﷺ is not going to stay put, stay in Medina and wait for them to attack him. So he had hired some archers. So before the squadron of Ubayd ibn al-Harith could actually attack them, they started shooting them with arrows and kept them at bay, and they went back to the Prophet ﷺ, and you understand why the Prophet ﷺ was not mad at anybody. He was training them. He was getting them ready. He was sending out messages all over the place, to show what his intentions were. Now, look, we're in the first year of Hijrah, and month after month, where the first one was Ramadan, then Shawwal, and then Dhul Qa'dah, there was another squadron of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, his cousin from his mom's side, so his mom's sister's son. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas led 20 men in an area called Al-Khurayd, close to Al-Madinah, and they went on foot, but they were walkers. The caravan had took off, and they could not catch up with them, and they came back to Al-Madinah. Part of the planning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the matters before Badr, that one of the great leaders of Mecca had passed away, Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. He passed away before Badr, and he was the father of Khalid ibn al-Walid. The Prophet he went out on an expedition called the expedition of Al-Abwa or Al-Waddan, and it was in Safar of the second year of Al-Hijrah, where he reached Quraysh in Bani Dumra again. Bani Dumra, the first time that Hamza caught up with them. Now the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went and he caught up with them, but then Al-Makhshi ibn Amr stopped the fighting, and he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, please, let's sign a peace treaty and no more attacking. And with that, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was establishing his authority over that area. Now, the next month, Rabi al-Awwal, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ left for an expedition of Buwat, leading 200 men on horses. The caravan they were seeking had 2,500. Imagine a caravan that stretches 2,500 camels. Was guarded by 100 cavaliers, 100 horsemen, and their leader was Umayyah ibn Khalaf. We'll talk about his story later. But the Prophet ﷺ could not catch up with them. They had taken a different route, intelligence, counterintelligence, and the Prophet ﷺ could not catch up with them, and he came back. Now, the next month, on Jumada, the Prophet ﷺ himself left for a Ghazwatul Ashira. Some news, some intelligence came to him that Quraysh had a caravan coming from Sham, from Levant, and he caught up with them in the area of Bani Mudlij. But the Bani Mudlij, they protected the caravan, and they asked the Prophet ﷺ for a peace treaty. They signed a peace treaty that the Prophet or the Muslims should not attack anybody in their area, and in exchange they will not allow anybody to attack the Muslims from there, as a peace treaty. In that area, the Prophet ﷺ stayed for an entire month. He settled there, making sure to show everyone that he now has power and authority over that area, leading only 200 men, but they were so powerful, even they were smaller numbers, that they could stay in hostile territory for an entire month. Only 10 days after the Prophet ﷺ came back from the conquest of Buwat, and he went to Al-Madinah, 10 days later, where they were in Medina, a man with a group of bandits from another tribe, they attacked Al-Madinah. His name is Kirz ibn Jabir al-Fihri. Kirz ibn Jabir al-Fihri and his gang, they attacked Al-Madinah, and they attacked the palm tree area. Medina is very famous for its dates, and they were stealing some dates, and they killed one of the Ansar Sahaba. And then, when they heard about the attack, the Prophet ﷺ, wore his armor and took his weapon, and he started chasing the robbers. They all separated different ways, and the Prophet, tried to catch Qurz ibn Jabir al-Fihri. But when the man saw that the Prophet was catching up with him, he started throwing all the stuff that he had stolen, and he started, throwing away even his own belongings. And the Sahaba following the Prophet following this man, but when they reached the area of Badr, the man was able to escape. So, but the last conquest, the last Sariya, the last squadron, was that of Abdullah ibn Jahsh. He took only 8 muhajirin with him, and this is going to turn to be a very Interesting story. 8 people in a squadron led by Abdullah ibn Jahsh. Amongst them is Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, who was a leader in the previous one. It just shows you like these people, they were commanders, but they had no problem being under somebody else's command. Now, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, you were a leader in that squadron, no problem, but today you're going to be following Abdullah ibn Jahsh. No argument there, no nothing. He gave them a letter. He told them, you open this message only after you walk 2 full days from Medina in a certain direction that he gave them. So you walk for 2 days. After 2 days, you open the letter and you read the message. And the message was very clear that there was a caravan that belonged to Quraysh. And note that Quraysh had confiscated all the money from the Sahaba, the Muhajirun, the migrants, to their homes, to their wealth. I mean, I'm not talking about the previous torture and then punishment that they did to them, but now it was time to retaliate and take some of that stuff back. And he told them in the letter that you choose to be in the squadron, go ahead. You choose not to be in the squadron, go back. And all 8 of them chose to be in the squadron, and none of them quit his position. In that squadron of 8 people, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he was riding the same camel as Utbah ibn Ghazwan. Utbah ibn Ghazwan and Sa'd rode the same camel. They used to share it. But that camel somehow was able to just run away, start walking in the desert. So when they, found out that the camel was not there, how are they going to get home? They started chasing. They went and left their friends and went to look for the camel. So only 6 of them were able to ambush the caravan. And that was in the last day of Rajab. And Rajab, even before Islam, was a sacred month where the Arabs and later the Muslims did not fight. It was not allowed for them to fight. And they just thought it was Sha'ban. They thought that Sha'ban started and it was okay to attack the caravan. So they did. And the people, when they saw the caravan being attacked by 6 people, most of them started running. One man started fighting some of the Sahaba, and they killed him. So the first person to be killed in a battle in Islam, in this ambush, his name is Amr ibn al-Hadrami. So Amr ibn al-Hadrami was the first one to die. And they captured 2 men, Al-Hakam ibn al-Kaysan wa Uthman ibn Abdullah. These 2 men were captured by the Sahaba, and the whole caravan was captured by the Sahaba. The Mushrikun of Mecca, they just took off and left, and one of them was killed, as we said. They took the whole caravan because they were efficient. Imagine before they had squadrons of 200 men, they had squadrons of 30, 60 men, and they didn't do nothing. And these 6 people were able to fulfill their missions. I call it efficiency. So in Islam, it's not about numbers. It's not about how many people you have in your community. It's about efficiency. That was the first booty of war in Islam, was the first person, the enemy killed in Islam, and the first prisoners, Al-Hakam and Uthman. Now, when that happened, Quraysh, when they found out, they started spreading the news that the Muslims have broken a major rule, which is no fighting in the sacred month of Rajab. What the Sahaba thought Rajab was over, but it was not. So they started, calling it Harbul Fujar. The Fujar in Arabic is any war that was fought out inside the sacred months, Al-Ashur al-Hurum. When they went back to Medina, the Sahaba, with the 6 of them, because the other 2 were still chasing their camel. They're not back yet. So 6 of the Sahaba came back and presented the caravan to the Prophet ﷺ, and he refused to take it. They were bewildered, like, why? He just refused to take it. He said, I'm not taking any booty of war. And he was angry. How do you do that? How can you fight in those days? And they said, Ya Rasulullah, we did not know. We did not know. We did not do that on purpose. We believed, it was the first day of Ramadan, of Sha'ban, and Quraysh now sent a delegation to Medina to face the Prophet ﷺ. And the first thing they asked him, did you start a fight in a sacred month? The Prophet ﷺ says, no, I apologize to you. It was a mistake. So here's the caravan, take it back. And he says, well, how about the two prisoners? We want them back. He said, no, I shall not give you the prisoners until my other two men come back. And why he said that? Because he did not know if Quraysh had captured them or killed them. So he wanted to make sure that his people were safe. And he told them, I shall not return your prisoners until my men come back. When the Sahaba came back, Sa'd and his companion came back to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ released the two prisoners, Al-Hakam ibn Kaysan and Uthman ibn Abdullah. Al-Hakam ibn Kaysan, when he was imprisoned in Medina, he started observing how the Muslims lived. He saw the beauty of Islam, he saw the justice of Islam, and he saw, the moral character and akhlaq of the Sahaba, of the companions. So as soon as he was released from his prison, he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he became a Muslim, and he stayed in Medina. He did not go back to Mecca to his family and his people. As for Uthman ibn Abdullah, he went back to Mecca, and as soon as he got there, he died. This event of fighting in the sacred month was recorded in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah 217 that يسألونك عن الشهر الحرام, they are asking you about this sacred month. قتال فيه, if it's allowed to fight in it. قتال فيه قل قتال فيه كبير وصد عن سبيل الله. It's meaning fighting in the sacred month is a great sin, and it's a way to chase people away from the path of Allah. But the ayah goes along, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the kuffar, like, you are worried about fighting in the sacred month. Well, how about you when you chased the entire Muslim community out of their homes and you afflicted them with a lot of trials and tribulation, a lot of fitna? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies this point in the Quran, that chasing people away from their homes, deporting them and then taking their wealth and their property is a much more major sin than fighting in a sacred month. You all know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ always wanted to pray to Mecca, but he was commanded to pray to Jerusalem. When he was in Mecca, he would put Mecca in front of him and then face Jerusalem, so he'd pray to both places at the same time. But when he moved to Medina, which is north of Mecca, there was no way to do that. So he Mecca, or Al-Kaaba, was to his back. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knows all this, and the Prophet ﷺ would be looking up in the heavens, trying to look for that revelation that tells him to turn to Mecca, and he never asked for it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that privilege without asking. Allah records this in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he tells his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we see how you turn your face different directions in the heavens. فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. We will give you a qibla that you love, that you want, that you're pleased with. He never asked for it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew his intentions. He says, فَوَلِّي وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. So now turn your face towards Al-Masjid al-Haram. When that happened, the Jews of Medina started spreading the news that the Prophet, that what kind of religion is this? One day you pray into this direction, one day you pray in that direction. Because the Prophet ﷺ recited this ayah and told the Muslims, from now on we're going to face Mecca. So the Jewish community started criticizing them that this is child's play. Why don't you stick to one direction? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayat to strengthen the Muslim position about that matter. Now, in Sha'ban of the second year of Al-Hijrah, we're still talking about pre-Badr, events. In the second year of Al-Hijrah, in the month of Sha'ban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Siyam, fasting, mandatory upon the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ fasted, and all the Sahaba followed him in doing that. Now, the direct events that preceded the Battle of Badr will start after this fasting of the month of Ramadan. When they started fasting, the Battle of Badr happened, in the month of Ramadan of the second year. And now, inshallah, we will be talking about these events next time when I talk to you.
So far, we left Paris to Frankfurt, that's where I got the motorcycle. Had to go back to Nice, Oman, and then hopefully next time we'll go to Poitiers. Hope to see you then. Stay tuned. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.